Alright, time to work on this knuckle motor project again here. So we got this crank apart. So the S&S was okay. This one's made wrong. This is the Taiwan Teddy crank. So this one here is the pinion shaft does not have a taper over here, so you can true it. Unlike these other shafts, see they have a taper right here. So you need that so you can true it. Without that taper, this crank can be anywhere it wants to be, and that obviously affects the rest of the trueness if this is not where it belongs. This is a thread, and it has a little set screw that goes in there, and it plugs up the hole so that the oil only comes into the side here. There's a side hole right there, and you don't want to be feeding through the end of it. So Harley, they had a screw that went in here, which is how the S&S stuff was made. Big thick screw that goes in there, and I'm not sure what I did with that screw. There it is. So that's what they used to block the end of the shaft. So they had it cut out with a taper, that one right there, and it was threaded. So what the old Taiwan Teddy did, he went cheap. They took two set screws here. They put one in there, and then they jammed it with the other one. They jam it in so it won't unscrew. So they tighten them up. The problem was they weren't that tight. They didn't put them in correctly. But when you do that, there's no taper. So, and these are heat treated, so you can't just go in there and drill a tap and do it. Plus these are left-handed thread. So, not made right. So the cheap way of doing it is you buy another shaft and start over, but we're here to fix stuff, so we're going to try to machine it and make it work. Let's see, I'm going to rotate here. I'm trying to fix my tripod so I can move it around. Okay, so first thing I do is get the shaft out of the flywheel. Should be 1 3/16, and this is an 1/8. It doesn't fit. I don't know why. Why didn't it fit? Oh, there's the one that works. Imagine that. Get the right socket, it fits. Hard to believe, huh? Not very tight. Barely touched it. You can put the nut on backwards too. So the nut has a shoulder on it where it's supposed to be against the flywheel. This here has a radius chamfer on it because that's the outside of the nut. They put the nut on backwards. They can't even do that right. Okay, if you take a big ball peen hammer, flat face, if you hit it dead flat, you don't do any damage. If you hit it at a corner like this, you flatten the hole in the shaft and destroy it. So you can see how the shaft was hitting right here, and it's not even hitting out here. See how it's all dark right here? That's where it went in the flywheel. So this taper is not that good, I bet. The key obviously is not tight in the shaft because it fell right off. Hear the rattle? It don't match very well. Okay, now I can check the actual balance factor now because now there's a bare flywheel. Key fell off again, and you can see how this one's even worse. Barely got anything that's touched. It's not even touching anywhere along in here. Obviously that's an oil leak too because it's not hitting. Nothing to keep the oil in the motor. That is way off. Key's laying in the flywheel, but it's not tight. Yes, that is. And blow it up. Nice and loose. Not a good fit. So when you look at this stuff here, you can see how things are just not machined correctly. So people want to know the difference between a Taiwan Teddy crank and a good old S&S crank. That's the difference right there. The other people say buy the Truett & Osborne crank. Well, that's what they copied. But my experience with Truett & Osborne the last few years, garbage. So I don't know if they got any better. Since the old man died, their quality went downhill a long ways. So if you want to see how bad it is, go look at the 61 Sportster rebuild, motor rebuild, and you'll see how bad it is. Pretty nasty. Alright, so this is the other crank here, which is out of the 46 motor. So we'll be doing that in a different video. So this one here, we're going to somehow see what we can do to make this work. So I may as well go over and lathe and play with it a little bit. First thing we're going to do is put our tools away. There we go. So I want to get a taper on that. So, and the reason we want to taper is so you can put this thing in the stand right here. And it rubs right in that hole like that, and then you can go ahead and chew your flywheels. You know, my taper's getting all chewed up in here. I'm going to turn this again because it's all eaten up. And having that like that did not help it. That's that mark right there. So I need to re-true that up. This other side over here is a lot better. So these pinion shafts are just eating up my crank stands. So I've been doing a lot of M8s and twin cams and crappy knucklehead stuff. So it's tearing up my flywheel stand. So I got to take this taper out, recut that. I'll go ahead and pull this one out and recut this one too while I'm at it. So we'll start fresh again. So that's maintenance you got to do every few years. You got to fix your equipment. Alright, so I'm going to get some tools here to figure out what I'm going to do here, and we'll be back.